In this next set of videos, we'll be focusing on a concept in Android called recycler view. A recycler view is not something which is new to us. We have already seen something called list view. This is just an advanced version of a list view. So we'll just see a few things about it, and then we'll do a small program to understand how a recycler view works. As I already told, a recycler view is a more advanced and a flexible version of the list view itself. And there is a reason why we use recycler view instead of list view. If your app needs to display a list of elements, which is, let's say, a lot of data and which constantly change, and you have let's say hundreds and thousands of data which you want to display, I'd prefer you use recycler view, not a list view. Before I go to the technical part of it, to just understand it in simple words, list view will load, if for example, if you have 1,000 records, list view will load all the 1,000 records in one shot and then keep it ready so that you can scroll through them. That's the idea of a list view. Whereas a recycler view, if you have 1,000 items, it will just load the first 10 or whatever is visible in the area. Only that will be loaded, and as you scroll, the next data would be let's say appended, or it will be loaded only when you require, which means it's much more faster, flexible, and you can update it whenever you want. That's the idea. There are a lot of things which makes a recycler view work, because as you see that it's not a simple task of just attaching some data to a list view. Rather, we'll be giving a dynamic way of getting data, and you can decide how that list view should look like. So last two or the previous list views, whatever we have used single line list item, two line list item, which means system defines how it should look. We just gave the data. This program onwards, I will decide how that list should look, the list views item should look, and then we will give the data. So the overall container for your user interface is the recycler view. That's it. So you put a recycler view control, you manipulate everything, you have the data, you have an adapter, you connect them and you work. The working is still the same. Only thing is the concepts which run behind will be a little bit different. How it is different, how to work with it, we'll see shortly. This is just an example, just to show you a preview of how a recycler view works. There is a list. As you scroll at the bottom, you can see that this is not from the local system, it is from the internet. So when you scroll, see the first time when it scroll, the next data should be loaded. So it loads at the bottom and then it starts again. And once it reaches the end, it has loaded everything. This is one example. Another example would be this. Say for example, there are different images, and if you scroll, the moment you scroll, the images take a little bit time to come. The reason is because the images are not loaded in the beginning. The first 4 or 5 images are loaded. The remaining images are loaded only when you scroll down. So this is the idea, a general idea of what is a recycler view. Now, some keywords which I wanted to focus on before I go to the program part of it, very important. The recycler view fills itself by a layout manager which you provide. First keyword. Okay, I'll give you the order in the last slide, but then just understand these words. One, you need a layout manager to fill itself with its views. I hope by now you know what is a view and what is a view group. All right, and then each view in the list is represented by a view holder, that is instance of a class which you define by extending that specific keyword called view holder. Please remember the word layout manager, view holder. Please focus on only the ones which I've highlighted, that's enough. And each view holder is in charge of displaying a single item with a view, which we will be doing. And recycler view normally creates as many view holders are needed to display on the screen, on the on-screen portion of your list view, plus a few extra, just for safety's sake. It just, for example, there are 10 records, it loads 9 records, and the one will be in buffer, which means it will be loaded, but it will not be shown to you. So when you scroll, I'll see the next one. I'll show that in working shortly. Anyway, as you scroll through the list, recycler view takes the off-screen views and rebinds them to the data which is scrolling onto the screen. That's what I just said. And the next keyword, adapter. You need an adapter of the recycler view, not a simple adapter or a cursor adapter. Please note specifically I'm looking for an adapter which belongs to recycler view. I hope by now you know what's the work of the adapter. The adapter creates view holders as needed, and please note the words which follow. They bind the view holder to their data. So this is the mapping which we do with an adapter, which I've already spoken about in all the list view programs which we have done so far. And there's one more keyword, very important method, which is called on bind view holder. As the name goes, it's all self-explanatory, you can understand that. I'll show you how it works, but they assign the view holder to a position and calling these adapters on bind view holder. And that method uses the holder's position to determine what content should be ready and based on which position you are, which scrolling part you are in right now. Summary. These are the words which I'm going to use in my program right now. I'm going to create a program in which you're going to display some student details in my own way, like however you want. And what are the components which I'd be requiring while I do this program? So first one is a recycler view, the component itself. That's what we are focusing on. The second thing is the actual data. What data would like to display? See, I have a list view, I have a data. I want to display that. This is the idea what I'm trying to do. But then in between whatever is there is a technicality. But our main idea is to get the data on the recycler view and display to the user. So in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to display your details, which means student details. I'm going to display it in list view. But the list view is design. I'll be designing. That's the idea. Okay, so how do I pass this data? Please note that I've mentioned the word Pojo. I think the regulars, if you remember that we did it in the last semester, we create a class, a structure, which doesn't have anything except for its data members. We generated getters and setters. That was called as plain old Java objects. We need the actual data in that format. It's recommended. We'll keep it that way. And third thing, we need a custom layout, which means so far we've been using a single line list item, 2-line list item, etc., which was defined from android.r.layout, which means system defines it, I just use it. But now we are moving on. We are giving, I am going to create my own layout and then ask the system to display in that fashion. That's what we are going to do. And view holder. That's another word which I already mentioned before. What is the work of the view holder? Mapping each view. When I say view, I hope you understand, each control from your layout, whatever you created, to your data. Next, the adapter itself. The adapter, please note there is one more word I've mentioned. Adapter should extend from view holder. And the next one is these methods which are very important: on create, on bind, get item count. These are the details which I wanted to remember before going to the program. I'll repeat it once again: recycler view, the actual data, the custom layout, view holder, adapter which extends from the view holder, and these methods: on create, on bind, and get item count. So these are the ideas which you need to remember. The program which I'm about to do, I'm going to split it into two. In this video, I'll only do the design part of that, or the XML and the layout part of that. And in the following video, we'll be doing the coding part of it. Let's get to the program. I have created a simple Android project which is called Recycler Demo, and I've removed the text view which is already there. Now all I need you to do is first drag and drop a recycler view onto your constraint layout. Please note it is available in containers, recycler view. The first time when you drag it, it will not be available because it will be downloadable component. So once you drag and drop it, it will ask you to whether to add the support libraries, and you just click on OK and it will sync once again. Once it is ready, you should see this design in your layout. So now once you drag and drop it, also don't forget to put the constraints so that there's no error coming from constraint layout. So now I'm going to name this as recycler view. And that's all here. We are not going to do anything else in this design. That is the first part. The second part of this is, as you have mentioned, see, they have mentioned item 1, item 2, item 3. I don't want like that. I want, this is the format in which I want. I want the student's name to come on first. Below that, I want his register number. On the right hand side of the list view, I want to see which course he is studying currently. So this is the data which we require right now. So let's create our own layout. Please note, this is not going to be an activity, just the layout. That's the second thing. So let's do that now quickly. I'm going to the project, and please find the folder called layout. Please don't right click on the app and do it. So let's go to the resources, layout, right click on the layout folder, create a new layout resource file. So let's create a layout resource file, and this I am going to say my_layout. Please note this is a layout which I am going to create. Some people might name it as a single item or item model or item layout, because this will only define how one item should look like. That's it. So I'm going to say my_layout and click on OK. So you will get a layout design, but please note nothing would be there here in Java part, because we are not creating an activity. I've just created a design, the layout itself. So now let me go back and let me remove this constraint layout and convert it into a linear layout. And let's convert that linear layout to a vertical one. And all I'm going to do is 3 text views. One to display the name, one to display the register number, one to display the course. That's all. So let me just keep putting 3 text views there. 1, 2, and 3. So I have 3 text views here. After I put the text views, I'm going to give the properties to them. So first, let me just choose all 3 and go to its margin, because they are too close to the border. So I'm going to give left and right margin, because this is not a common margin. I don't want so much gap between the items. So what I'm going to give is, I'm going to say margin left 10 dp and also from the right 10 dp. And the top and bottom, let's keep a little bit smaller, 3 dp, so that they are not so close to each other, but not very far away also. So that's it. So I've given 3 things. Now all I need to do is go to every individual element and give them some data. So first one, the first text view, I am going to name it as TV name. This will be carrying the student's name, and the text I am right now giving just for our understanding. We'll be manipulating it through code. So I'm going to give student name. Second one is done. And the third property, what I'm going to give here is, let's say the color and the size. So I'm going to give a size, say text appearance large. So I want the student's name in large, and if you want, you can give a color. It's your wish how you want to keep that. The second one I'm going to name it as TV reg number. This is the register number, so I'm going to just say register number will come here. So this is the register number, and let's change the appearance. So I'm going to give medium for that, so that this number comes below that. And if you want, you can give a color. So I'm going to give black, and we'll leave it as it is. That's it. The last one is the course, but please note, I don't want the course on this side. I want the course on the right side. So let me first give the ID TV course, and let me find a property called gravity, and let's change it to right side, so that the course will come on the right side. So that is done. And in the text, I'm going to say course right now, because I'm going to manipulate it through code later. And also I'm going to give a font family saying that small cap, so that it will be in full caps. So this is done. Now I have a list item. Please note, this is only one item, and this is taking the entire screen. Let's just fix it so that you understand what does an item mean. Let's go to the linear layouts attributes, and let's name it. So I'm going to just say linear underscore layout. This is the layout ID. Please note, this is what I've given, so that since I don't have any other linear layouts, I've just given the name as linear underscore layout. That is done. And height, please change this match parent to wrap content, so that you can see how it looks like. That much only. This is only one item in my entire list view. I've got the item. I need to populate this in such a way that it comes as a list of items. That's all. So I've created one list item. Now, the last part of this video is just to create one more XML part. Please note, I've already created one XML, this which came along with my activity, main activity.xml. Second is the layout, which we have created on our own. That is also done. The third XML part, what we are going to talk about is the data. Please note, I'm not going to use internet data. I'm going to create a string array inside my project, and I'm going to just add, just because I don't want to complicate it with the internet right now. Next program, we'll get data as a JSON format from the internet, and then we'll parse it. But right now, just to keep it simple, I'm going to create a string array in my project, which will get the data. I'll be putting our data. You can take it from the internet. I'll give it to you shortly. So first, let's go to the project. And please go to the resources folder and right click on the resources and say add new resource file. And when you add the resource file, make sure that it goes to values. Please note, not into anything else, just goes to values folder. Let me just put students as the XML file's name. So you have a resource created inside values folder. Values, you have students.xml. Now inside this, what I want to do, I don't want to use the two-dimensional array. Let me just use a simple array, but in that array, every element will have one student's record. Let me first create a string array, and let's give it a name. So I'm going to give it as students array. And inside the students array string, I would like some items to be put. So what I would like to do here is, I would like to put all my students record here, not as a two-dimensional one, single dimension. So I'm going to just create something like this, item. And between item and slash item, first I'm going to put a register number. Second, I'm going to put a name. Third, I'm going to put a course. So please note, this is one string according to Java. This is one item. I am going to take that and split it into 3 based on this comma which is coming there. So just to avoid typing this so many times, I've put it on the internet. So just copy paste that item. Just go to sac-aimit.in and just type sample data.txt. This is the URL. In that one, I've already put some data. This is all our data. The entire class's data is here. I'm going to just copy and paste it here. So you've got all your records here, which means each item has one person's record. If you notice that it has register number, comma, name, comma, your course, whatever you're studying right now. So this is what the data I have. This is all with respect to the XML files in my program. Let's say design part. So activity_main.xml, I created a single item, how it should look like. Next is students.xml, which has the data which I'm going to use in my program. What I'm going to do is, number one, we are going to do a POJO. I need to make sure that this is formatted and given to me in a plain old Java object format. One. Second, I'm going to create an adapter which is going to extend a view holder. And the last thing is I'm going to map all these things into my main activity.java. Let's begin with the code. First, let's create a POJO object inside our project. So I'm going to the same place where main activity.java is located. I'm going to right click on this folder and new Java class. Please just choose a Java class. And once you've chosen it, let's name it as student. Capital S. I've just given it a class name, a simple class. That's it. And click on OK. And you have a simple class ready. So now inside this class, all we are going to do is we are going to say how many data members does this class have. I'm going to give 3. Student name, let's say register number, and course. So I'm going to put it in different order. So let me just create a private int. Let's name it as register number. I'm going to just give it as camel case. Private int register number. Done. Second one, private string student name. And the next one, private string student course. That's it. This is only 3 lines we'll be typing, remaining we'll be generating. The first thing what we'll be generating is a constructor for this particular class. The first constructor what I'm going to create is an empty constructor. So just right click, generate constructor. Without choosing anything, just choose the student and then say OK. You'll get an empty constructor. And after that, let me just right click and generate once again a constructor, but this time choose all the 3 members of this class and then say OK. So you would get one more constructor which assigns all these values as soon as you instantiate this object. So that is also done. The last part what we are going to generate is the getters and setters. So let's click on generate, getter and setter, choose all the 3 and then click on OK. So you would get a getters and setters. So this entire class now represents a POJO of student. If you create an instance of this class right now, you are representing one student. So if I say student space s1 is equal to new student, and s1 dot set register number, set student name, set course will represent one student in this format. Next, we are going to create an adapter. Right click on this same place, project name, new Java class, but this time I'm going to name it as my adapter. Let's click on OK. So the first thing what I'm going to do inside this adapter is to create a view holder. So I'm going to create my own view holder which extends from the inbuilt recycler views holder. So in order to create the view holder class, I'm not going to create it separately as a class. I'm going to create it as an inner class. So let's start public static class called my view holder. Please note this is a class which we create, and inside this I'm going to say extends from recycler view dot view holder. This is what it extends from. Done. Once you finish this, it is going to throw an error because there is no default constructor which is passed to this view holder, because view holder's work is to map. So how do I do this? I just say create a constructor matching this super. So you have got this is an adapter class we created. Inside this we have created an inner class called my view holder, and we have the constructor inside it. So before we enter inside the constructor's code, you need to remember that what I'm doing in the view holder is to map the individual layout what we have done in the previous video, that single item. So I'm going to map that all, whatever controls are there in that one. If you remember, there are 4 controls there in that design. One is the linear layout itself. Inside that there are 3 text boxes. So let me start with the linear layout. I'm going to create an object of linear layout. So let me just name it a small linear layout, and then text view. There are 3 text views here. So I'm going to put txt reg number, txt name, txt course. So I have 3 text views which is there in my design. So how do I map that those 3 or 4 controls which are there to my view holder? How do I do that? So for that purpose, let me start. Normally how we do is linear layout is equal to find view by ID. But the problem is you can't write find view by ID because this is not an activity. So I need to get the view which is passed to you and then get the view. So I'm going to say item view dot find view by ID r.id dot. Now you can see all your controls are available. So the linear layout was mapped as linear underscore layout. That's done. The next one is the text view. So let's do that quickly. txt reg number is equal to item view dot find view by ID r.id dot tv register number. That also we have got. So please note here that the item view which I'm writing everywhere is passed here. So whatever variable name you get here in your ID, please use the same thing here. txt name is equal to item view dot find view by ID r.id dot tv name. Next, txt course is equal to item view dot find view by ID r.id dot tv course. So all I have done in this entire view holder, which extends from recyclers views holder, is map all these controls to my program. So if I call an object of my view holder, it will have the mapping of all these controls without fail. So now let's go to the next part of the adapter. So I'm going to ask this adapter to extend. Please note, I'm asking the adapter which you created to extend from recycler view dot. Please note, we have an adapter. So when I call this adapter, it is expecting a parameter also to be passed. If you notice that here, it is VH, which is short form for view holder. So I'm going to just call adapter, and within generic type brackets, I am going to pass this my view holder which we just created. Since it's an inner static class, it just calls from the class name dot sub inner class name. That's it. It says there's an error, which means you have to implement its methods also if you extend from adapter class. So let's click on implement methods. If you see, these 3 are the methods which I told you in the PPT as a last point, that on create view holder, on bind view holder, get item count. Let's click on OK. Now you have got 3 methods. Now all I need you to do is, number 1, when you call this adapter, I want you to also pass what data you want this adapter to process. So you need to get a set of data, and once you got the data, you can pass it, and once you got the data, only you will come to know how many items are there in that data. So as soon as we begin with recycler view adapter, I would prefer we do this first. So what data will I give it to the adapter? If you remember, I have a student's array XML file which I'll be processing into a student object, but please note I have 85 students there. I'll be creating one object for every student. So instead of just creating an object of the student, let me convert that entire thing into an array. So how do I do that? I have a class called student. Instead of calling it as 1, I'm going to make it as a array. So array of students, which means it can have more than one student inside that. So I'm going to just name it as students list. As soon as this adapter class is called, I would like you to initialize it and keep it ready. So how do I do that? I'm going to click on generate constructor, choose that student list and say OK. So you will be instantiating. So whatever you pass here will be assigned to this students list. Now, once you've got the students list, it's easy to tell how much data is there. So I'm going to just say students list dot length. Please note, if you don't write this, your recycler view will always think the item is 0 because in the beginning it was saying 0. So if you don't manipulate or change this, it will always say 0 and you will not see anything in the output. So very important method this is. So this is done. Then the next part is to make sure that onCreateViewHolder understands what you're doing, which means you need to initialize and keep everything ready before you actually bind the view holder. So what should I do? So first, let's look at what is the method requiring you to pass. It needs you to return my view holders object so that you can map it. And right now it's returning null. Let's fix that. Also, please note it is taking two parameters. I'm going to focus on the first parameter, view group. I hope by now you understand what is a view group. So let's continue to the code. I'm going to create a layout inflator to inflate my design what I've created. So I'm going to create an object of layout inflator. Let me name it as inflator is equal to. You need to call layout inflator dot from. Please note it expects you to pass one parameter called context. Here you cannot say in the context of this, but rather it is the context of the parent. So whose view group are you taking? That context. So I'm going to say parent dot get context. Done. So you have got the context and the layout inflator is ready. Now what should I inflate? You should inflate whatever you have created as a list item. So let's do that. Let's create a view. And let me name it as list item is equal to inflator.inflate. You need to pass what is the resource and what is the view group, and last one, should I attach it to the root? So I'm going to pass three parameters. Number one, what resource would you like me to inflate? Now I have created a layout, if you remember, r.layout.mylayout. That's the resource which I want you to inflate. Second thing is what is the view group? View group is already passed to you, if you remember. I just need to call the view group. Last one, do you want me to attach it to the root? No. Leave it as it is. So I've got a layout inflator, I've got a view. The next thing, all I'm going to do is create a view holder object. So I'm going to, because the return type is my view holder. So let's create an object of my view holder. Let me just name it as holder is equal to new my view holder. And if you remember, I need to pass a view, and which I've got already. So I'm going to just pass that list item. That's it. The last line, I'm going to return holder. We are done with the onCreateViewHolder. These few lines, all they are doing is they are just trying to map your design, what you have created, to the holder which you have created. That's it. The next and the most important part of this adapter is the onBindViewHolder. So in binding, what are you going to do? I am going to map whatever is available in that particular position, whatever student you have got in that position. Let's start. I'm going to create an object of student. Please note it is not the array, it is just a single student, because I want to take every student and bind it to the list item. So I'm going to write student space, let's say S is equal to, I'm going to call that list what we have already on the top, student list of which position, I do not know. Whatever position is passed to you here, I would like you to take that. So I'm going to say position. You've got the student record. Now all you need to do is call the holder and set the text on those controls. That's it. So let me just call the holder. Please note the holder which is passed here. Holder dot. Please note all the controls which we created in the view holder is now listed out to you. I'm going to start with the register number. So I'm going to start register number dot. That's a text view, if you remember. So the methods which will come from that are set text. So I would like you to set the text as what? So you already have S. If you call S and say dot, you will get the register number. Please note the return type is integer. So I'm going to just put a double quote. So it doesn't consider it as a resource. It consider it as a string. Next, holder dot txt name dot set text. Now I'm going to call S and say dot get student name. Next, holder dot txt course dot set text S dot get student course. Done. That's it. So our adapter is ready with all these data. Now, just to show you what happens when you click on bind view holder, I'm going to put a log message. So let's just put log.t, and I'm going to put a tag as recycler and position. Which position are you talking to? So position number. I'm going to concatenate that with the position which is passed to you. With this, our adapter code is done. Let's go to the last part of our code in main activity. In the main activity, the first thing what we are going to do is we are going to get all the data which is available in that string array what you created into Java. So let's do that. Number one, I'm going to create a string array let's say XML records, so that you know that it is coming from XML. So I have XML records is equal to, how do I get those records? You remember they are in the resources folder. So I'm going to write get resources dot get string array. There is an inbuilt method for that, string array. What is the ID of that array? I'm going to say r.array. You will find our array's name, what I gave in the last video, students array. So you have got the records and now stored it in a string array called XML records. This XML records right now has all the records of my students. So for example, if I have 85 students right now in MCA IV Sem, all 85 records are available. So the string length of this is 85. But basically how much data I want is 85 into 3, because each record has 3 important data inside it. So let's take this and parse it into a student. So let's convert it into a student list, which I can pass it to the adapter. If you remember, to the adapter, I need to pass an array of students. So let me create a student array. Please note, it is not a string array. It's a student array, which we have created as Pojo. And let me just name it as students list. And how do I instantiate this? I'm going to create it as a new student array. And what is the size of this? The size is whatever you have got, how many other records you have got in XML records dot length. That's it. So you have created a students array. This is what I need you to pass to the adapter. But this right now doesn't have anything because it's null and I've not initialized it. So let's populate the data inside it. So I'm going to create a for I equal to 0, I is less than students length, students list dot length, or you can even take XML records dot length. Both will be same by now. Every time this loop runs, I would like you to take one record from that XML data what you have and split it into 3 so that I can call them whenever I want. So I'm going to create a string array called as S. And what am I going to do here is I'm going to call students, XML records of I, whichever record you've just got from the system, dot split with what I have given comma after every data what I need to pass. So I've written like this. I hope this will be clear. We are taking the record, one record, and split it using comma. So the first record, if I say for example register number will be stored in S of 0, and name will be stored in S of 1, and the course will be stored in S of 2. So you have 3 records now in this one string. Please note it is still inside a for loop. So the next thing what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new object of the student Pojo. So student, let's name it as student, is equal to new student. Please note it expects parameters to be passed. If you remember, we had created this as a Pojo. So what I'm going to do is, number 1, I need to pass register number. And you know that this number is now stored in S of 0. So I cannot directly pass because it's expecting an integer to be passed there. So I'm going to say integer dot parseInt S of 0. That's the first parameter I'm going to pass. So that's the first one. Second one is the student's name. So that is stored in S of 1, because when you split that using comma, you will get 3 values. So 1, 2. The last one is the course S of 2. So by this line, all I've done is I've created a new instance of the student object. Now all I need to do here is put the student object inside the students list, which is much simpler now because I just need to call student list of I is equal to this student object what you created. That's it. By now you've got the full record which is there in your XML into your Java code. Now just go through this for loop. Every time the loop runs, this string S is instantiated with 3 records of one student, and then every time this loop runs, a new object of student is created with that particular record, and that is added to the index of student list. So now by this line you already have all your data which is there in XML into Java. This is done. Now the next part of my program would be to call the recycler view, set the adapter with this data. So let's do that quickly. I'm going to call object of recycler view. So I'm going to just call it as recycler is equal to find view by ID r.id.recycler view. The first thing is done. The second thing is that you want some settings to be done on this recycler view. Recycler dot set has fixed size to true. Yes, it is fixed size. And the second thing is the layout manager, which I told in the first slide if you remember. So I'm going to call recycler and say set layout manager and within brackets I'm going to pass an object of new linear layout manager, and the context of that is this. Done. So recycler view is ready. Now the next thing is I would like an adapter, and then I'll put that adapter on this recycler. So let me create a simple adapter which we already have created, my adapter. So let me name it as adapter is equal to new adapter. Please note, to create an object of this, you need to pass the array which is called a student array, which we already have. I've given the same name, students list. So I'm going to call students list. Done. The adapter is ready. All you need to do now is to call recycler and say set adapter to the adapter object which you created. That's it. The program is done. Let me run the program and let's see the output. I have run the program and the output is here, and also the logcat. I've kept all these things available right now. We'll just check how it works. See, right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people's records, which means position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see how many positions have been bound to your recycler view right now. So when I scroll, let's say if I'm scrolling a little bit, and as I scroll, you can see the position gets appended and it keeps adding new positions to it. So old positions are still there. I'm going to just scroll for a minute. You can see in the logcat what happens when I scroll. So only when I go to that scroll part, the data is bound, or the binding happens. Please note that it is not available right now. I mean, the entire recycler view doesn't have the data, and as I scroll, the data is getting mapped and the binding is happening, and you get the position number changing here. Now the advantage of recycler view is, number one, that as you scroll only the data gets populated. That's the first thing. The second thing is also reverse scrolling, which means if you want data to be updated now and then, so when I scroll the reverse, if you see the number, it is now in descending order. So whatever data is available for us is fresh, and it is reused again and again until there is a new update happening in the data. There is no update right now because my data is static and it is there from the XML file. It loads faster compared to what you see. But if the data is coming from the internet, it might take a little bit more time because it will not load all. So that is what we'll be doing in the next program, in which I'll be taking data from the internet. The code will be exactly similar to what we have done so far. Let's try that in the next video. Thank you guys.